to the alternate point of view. I hope you are all having a beautiful Saturday. So, today we are going to talk about Uvalde, the US. Wow, you guys, so many topics. First of all, I want to welcome you all to the alternate point of view. Welcome to everyone who has been an OG, and welcome to everyone who is first subscribing to this channel. Or if you're not subscribed, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. I hope that you are all, like I said, having an amazing Saturday. And if you guys have not been keeping up with the Uvalde trial, I hope that you will start, because this is a very interesting trial. It's a very emotionally charged trial. That's what I think about this trial. I think that this trial is my thoughts on it are actually, should this trial even be happening? Because the person who's actually responsible is already gone, okay? This person was taken out. And although there was many failures on part of the police officers, a lot of agencies that were involved, was it their fault? Could they have stopped this from happening? I want to know, right? Should this particular officer be on trial? Is this going to change anything? I personally, my point of view, I don't believe so. A lot of the officers, a lot of the people were either fired or moved to other positions. My thoughts on this entire thing are, I mean, it's 77 minutes, you guys, of inaction. 77 minutes of people who did literally not a lot. The first moments were crucial, but the first moments were crucial because the information was incorrect. The first moments, these cops thought they were coming to an accident scene. They thought they were coming to a scene where someone crashed. The dispatch, apparently, according to one of the witnesses, which was one of the police officers on the scene, stated that their dispatch only has 1 to 2 people on shift. So you have 1 to 2 people on dispatch relaying information between how many officers that were on that scene. And it was so chaotic, the radio frequency that was going on, it was just insane. So I can't imagine how many people were trying to relay information back and forth between what was going on at Robb Elementary to the dispatch, that dispatch was trying to relay back and forth. It probably couldn't have happened. It was a recipe for disaster. Also, because the officers even in the body cam didn't know that the school was in session, they thought school was out until a couple of the officers knew their either spouses were teachers, or some of them, their kids were in school, realized that, hey, my kids are here or my wife is here. They didn't realize that kids were in the building. So they thought this was a lone armed person holding himself up in the school and firing off to keep police officers out. Very odd situation. Also, according to the school's training protocol, teachers are supposed to lock their schoolroom doors and turn off the lights. That is what they're supposed to do in order to keep an armed person out of their classrooms. And I guess pretend that they're not there. So it makes it look like, no one's there, so that they won't be tempted to go into a room and harm anyone. Now, I think it's very odd that all of this was just a terrible recipe for disaster. I mean, I don't believe that this officer should be the one taking the fall for hundreds of officers. hundreds of people that were on this scene. It was 77 minutes of no one making a decision, no one calling the shots, no one doing anything. It seemed to be there was a chief that was on the scene in the beginning, and he did not make any decisions, and he takes zero responsibility for any of this. They held back. They stood back. They decided that the best thing to do was to stay back because apparently one of the officers said that he was hit in the thigh. I mean, what are you going to do? I know that people are like, there were kids in there. You go in, you go after where you hear the sounds coming from, but at the same time, you are no match for, you're not bulletproof, you're not Superman. And a lot of people are saying, well, this officer that's on trial, he was a school officer, so he had a different responsibility, a higher level of responsibility than the other officers did. He should have gone in and done it anyway, but he's a single officer. He's not, like I said, he's not Superman. He's not Batman. He doesn't have like some sort of special, cover. He doesn't have an iron dome around him. No one is able to survive those kind of rounds coming at you. Those rounds were going through the walls, through the doors. So if he had gone in, even if he had gone in, if he knew where the rounds were coming from, he still wouldn't have been able to survive such hits. So I feel like, my opinion, I don't want to say my feeling, my thoughts on this are, this is a very unfair trial. I think it's super emotionally charged. I believe that the prosecution has not established a law or any type of evidence against this officer. I believe that they are completely using testimony that is like a victim impact type statement testimony rather than evidentiary statements. I believe that this officer is definitely taking the fall for the every force that was there, the Border Patrol, the Sheriff's Department, the troopers, the local PD, Uvalde, the school. There was a teacher that testified that she was the one who put the rock to hold the door open. She claimed in her testimony when she was asked if that gate was closed, and she said, it's always closed. Well, it wasn't closed that day. You and another teacher opened that gate in order to bring food in for a celebration. It's not always closed. You opened it and left it open so that you could bring in food because it was more convenient. And you put a rock to prop open the door so that you could bring food in because it was more convenient. So you wouldn't have to keep opening and unlocking and locking the door. That's not always. So that's not securing the building. The school is taking zero responsibility. They're putting this all off on the officers. Also, the room that the guy got into, the rooms 111 and 112, those rooms are supposed to lock automatically. But the rooms didn't lock automatically. Why didn't they lock automatically? The teacher where the most children were taken out in, he kept putting work orders in because his door would not lock automatically in case of a situation like this very situation. And they wouldn't fix it. But that person, the mean person, got into the room through the doors that adjoined the rooms together. That's how he got in there. That's how he was able to do the damage he did. So even though this teacher kept putting work order in after work order, the school ignored fixing the door because he thought the door was locked, but it wasn't locked. And this person got in there into his classroom and did with the damage he did due to that door not being locked. So the school, mind you, is not getting held accountable for anything. Anything. And it just baffles me how never are these schools being held accountable for anything. I'm telling you, I remember when my son was in elementary school, it was like going through an act of Congress to get in to see him, pick him up, take him a snack, whatever. I had to push a button on an intercom to identify who I was and basically give blood before I could go in there. This school had zero security protocols, clearly, because the teachers were propping the doors open with a rock. They were opening the gates so they didn't have to go all the way around the building, because it's just sheer, honest to goodness laziness, and it's just sheer lackadaisy. It's just they just didn't have the wherewithal about themselves to think that it would ever happen to them until it did. And that's the honest to God's truth. And they can get up there and boohoo and cry on the stand all they want to, but that is the bottom line. And as sad as that is, and as awful as it sounds, the truth is the truth is the truth. Everyone holds a piece of this, of accountability. So they can try to blame this one police officer if they want to, but it actually starts from the very beginning. And it's not just the school. This goes all the way back to the young man who started this. The accountability goes all the way back. What happened to the young man? He made the decision. He made this choice. He decided he was going to do what he did that day. So at the end of the day, we're making a police officer pay the price and be put on trial for something that honestly he didn't do. We're having a police officer sit on trial because everyone wants someone to be held accountable, someone to have a face. You have to have a face because they can't hold the person who actually did it responsible. So they're having this officer be held accountable for hundreds of people that were there that day. Not just him. He just happened to be the first guy on the scene. Yes, he passed by the person, but he didn't know that was the person. He didn't know that was him. He was showing up to an accident. He didn't know what was happening. And when you have 1 to 2 dispatchers relaying information, it's utter chaos. There are rounds being shot over your head. You don't know. What are you supposed to do? What would you do? And I get it. You're held to a higher standard. But he's not the only one who was there that day. And then they have an officer who actually takes the stand who was behind him and is going to sit there and say, oh yeah, well, you know, there I was, but I didn't make any decisions either. I didn't go in either. So why is it okay for him not to have gone in, but the other officer who was also there not to have gone in? You can't make this up. You can't make it make sense. So that is what my thoughts are on this entire situation so far. There was an outburst in the middle of the trial. One of the parents was very upset. It is warranted for the parents to be very upset. They have lost their children. They will never see their children again. We should pray for these people, pray for their parents, pray for these kids that have lost siblings, pray for everyone that went through such a horrific thing, because these parents were standing outside of the school looking for their kids, wondering what was going on. The police officers were holding these parents back, keeping them from going into the building. Of course, you would want to run into the building and save your children. But the police officers clearly had zero guidance, had no idea what to do. They had multiple agencies involved in this, all these irons in the fire, and nobody knowing what to do. Obviously, just like zero training, zero expectation. Like, I mean, it was just all about it. Like, we don't know. This was never going to happen here. This was just not going to happen. We don't know what to do. We didn't know. Like, everybody had their thumbs up their butt. Like, it just like nothing. So it was awful, awful. And again, the same thing is happening in our country. Minneapolis is happening. It's a repeat. It's a repeat of history. It's all happening again like it never happened before, and like we don't know what to do. And everybody's just like, oh my gosh, it's happening again. What are we going to do? Y'all, what do you mean, what are we going to do? What is happening? How is this happening again? Tensions are high. Tensions are super, super high. They're high in this country. They're high everywhere. Hate is high. Victimhood is high. And honestly, it's just the victimhood. It is the victimhood is high. So I think if we stop playing victim and start being more like taking accountability for our own actions and choices and decisions, then that would be a much better option than what's happening right now. I think that we can't hold the person who actually did what happened in Uvalde accountable. So we're going to hold somebody else accountable. I don't know if we can hold them criminally accountable, but I think there are some things and changes that need to be made. I said this in the last video I did about Uvalde. There are definitely some changes that need to be made in law enforcement. Training needs to be done. This could definitely be used as a training tool. I said this before. My son was in a terrorist attack on a military base when he was in the Navy. They used that today as a training guide. But yet again, there was another terrorist attack, another incident on a military base. And clearly they learned nothing from the last one. So it clearly doesn't matter. You cannot perfect this. This keeps happening. These things keep happening at our schools, and we have yet to find a way to make it stop. We've yet to figure out how to properly stop these situations from happening. So there's clearly not the right answer. Turning your lights off, locking your doors, being quiet, that doesn't work. These people are getting into the schools one way or the other. And officers going and pretending like they're Superman is not a way. They can't stop things from hitting them. If that officer had gone in towards the fire, he didn't know where it was coming from. He could hear it, but he didn't know. I mean, I'm not sure if y'all are aware, but those things echo, especially in a building like a school, because it's made out of concrete. So those sounds echo, so you don't know exactly where that's coming from. It could be coming from you just don't know. You don't know where it's coming from exactly. So he wasn't sure which way to run. Also, he had different messages coming from different people. The woman who originally told him where it was coming from, she told him it was coming from the west when it was actually coming from the south. He had no idea. And again, he's not bulletproof. So another thing is their radios did not work inside the building. They had to go outside the building in order to get signal. So that's something else that's wrong with this situation. If you can't hear the information being fed to you or information getting out, that's another problem, another failure in the system. So this is a very, very bad situation all the way around. This was just awful all the way around. I have a lot of thoughts on this whole Uvalde thing. I think it's just awful. It's sad. But again, I think God is in control at the end of the day. I know people are like, why children? Why this? Why that? Is not for us to question. Everything happens for a reason, y'all. I really believe that there is a definite reason for what is going on in the world, why things are occurring. And maybe we should, instead of asking why all the time, we should start asking, what are we doing with ourselves, and what are we doing with our lives, and what does God want from us, instead of why. Why is this happening? We should be asking, what does the Lord want from us? What does God want us to change about ourselves? Because that is something that really needs to be taken care of. That is something what needs to be done and changed within ourselves. We need to be doing something different. If we have been, it's just like the definition of insanity, y'all. If you're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, then maybe you're just insane. So maybe it is time for us to change our ways and do something different. And that is turn yourself over to God and change your ways. Get yourself right with God, because that is one thing I say all the time is we need more Jesus, and we definitely need more Jesus. And this is something right here. Something is different. Something has changed. Things have changed in this world. We are not right with God. Things are not right. And I'm not a preacher I'm not a preacher. I'm not like that. I'm just saying things are not right in this world. We are not right with God. We are not being led by God. We are definitely following the worldly ways, and I just feel like this is a true sign. And I'm not saying by any means that when bad things happen, it's deserved, but it's a sign. It's a sign that we need to stop asking why all the time, because it's not God's doing. It's not God doing it. Everybody says, "Oh, if this was this, then God wouldn't let this happen, and God wouldn't let that happen." It's not God, y'all. People need to understand. Stop blaming God for everything. It's not God. So I just think people need to get things clear, and understand, get things right. And get right. Get right. That's what we all need to do, is just get right. So I hope if anybody saw this live that you enjoyed it. I hope if anybody has anything to say about the Uvalde trial, please put it in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are on the Uvalde trial. I really feel like this is I think it's just a very emotionally charged trial. I feel that this trial is all about pushing the emotional buttons. It is not really a legal trial. I think the attorneys are doing a good job on the defense side. I feel like the prosecution is not following legalese, evidentiary ways. I think the judge is very emotionally charged. I think the jury, if they do make a decision, it's going to be very emotionally charged. Again, I think the witnesses are more victim impact statements than they are uh, evidentiary. I believe that if this were against the actual person who did it, this would be more of a legitimate trial. But instead, a lot of this information is not got anything to do with the person who's actually on trial. So those are what my thoughts are. That's my point of view. And I hope that next time we'll have people who join the live, and we'll see you in the next video. So please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you next time. See you soon. 감사합니다.